Our next inductee is John Patrick. John, our rules of our Hall of Fame require that somebody be retired for 5 years before they can be even considered for induction. Our executive board, Medley, made the motion to waive that 5-year requirement so that we can all be here together tonight and honor one of the greatest union men that any of us has ever been a part of, and that is John Patrick. John is the kindest, most decent, most fiercely loyal, courageous union man that I've ever known. He started as a machinist, then a steel worker, then steel worker staff, then Texas AFL-CIO, and then Texas AFL-CIO president. He held lots of other positions, DNC. I'm not going to go through them all because they're really not important to me right now. What's important to me is that every step of the way, John was himself. John was never too impressed with himself, never too busy to do everything he can do to possibly take a moment to help a member or to help a colleague. I don't know how many miles John drove across Texas and across the country to represent the members in his union. John is smart. He went up against company attorneys from the biggest law firms, representing the biggest corporations, and more often than not, he came out on top. John's courageous. And I'm not just talking about when he used to jump out of airplanes as a paratrooper in the U.S. Army. I remember the one time John was talking about when he had an arbitration to prepare for, and his back went out. And he was laid down, he couldn't get out of bed. And still, he prepared for the arbitration. He had the witnesses come to his hotel room where he prepared them and went on and got a victorious result for his members. He was not scared. He wasn't scared to speak truth to power either. The reason was because John was just so comfortable being himself, representing his members. If that made somebody uncomfortable, that was their problem, not his. And he was such a team player when he was at the Texas AFL-CIO with the steelworkers, and a trusted confidant. In his time at the DNC, he was the go-to person for the national AFL-CIO when there was any issue that needed to be addressed or any tough knot that needed to be untied, that needed his steady hand. At the Texas AFL-CIO, he was so generous and so willing to allow others to shine, when in reality, it was his hand behind the scenes that was guiding the way. There was not a double-crossing bone in John Patrick's body. He reached the peak of the labor movement by being his complete self, true to his values and true to his moral code. Now, John, when he was younger, was a baseball player. And he liked to tell how he was a pitcher and his friends in his Alvin baseball team. And there was the second string pitcher was a guy he said was Nolan Ryan. You all might have heard of Nolan. But John loved baseball. And John is not without his flaws. Can we be honest? Do y'all want me to be honest? I'm going to be honest. John is not without flaws. And I think we need to talk about some of the more egregious ones. Sometimes his loyalty can get him in trouble, and sometimes he can have trouble telling right from wrong. For example, he continues to this day to support a baseball team that had to cheat to win the World Series. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. I think it's part of being loyal But sometimes we have to acknowledge when it clouds our judgment. I personally owe John a personal debt. And I want to be really clear about this, that everything you see here, that the Texas AFL-CIO does, has John Patrick's fingerprints on it. John spoke for a broader labor movement. He was a huge supporter of Montserrat Garibay being the Secretary-Treasurer. And there's no question that I would not be the president if it were not for John Patrick. You can argue about whether that's a good thing or not. But for me, I will be forever grateful to John Patrick for his leadership, his courage, his encouragement, and his friendship. Every person here owes a debt to John Patrick. And to Linda, her picture won't be up on the plaque. But there is no doubt that this was a team effort. I know that her patience, her support, and her love sustained John in his work and was the backbone of everything he did in the labor movement. John, on behalf of the Texas AFL-CIO, I want you to know that this body extends its deep love to you, its deep gratitude to both of you, and that you will always have a special spot, not only in the Texas Labor Hall of Fame, but in all of our hearts. And that everything that we do, we will be walking in the mighty footsteps that you have left. Thank you, John, and congratulations on your selection to the Texas Labor Hall of Fame. Read John's plaque. It's going to be so fun to have this hanging on the wall. In a long career with the United Steelworkers Union and as president of the Texas AFL-CIO, John Patrick built a stellar record of integrity, solidarity, and generosity of spirit while helping to build a stronger labor movement. Patrick began his union career as a member of the International Association of Machinists at Cameron Iron Works in Houston, before moving to the steelworkers to work at Reynolds Aluminum. In a succession of USW jobs, he excelled in difficult negotiations, exercising patience and tenacity in ways that one advances. Later, he brought those skills into the realm of arbitration, achieving positive results for working families. Patrick led the talks in the legendary walking of the contract at Lone Star Steel, ultimately arriving at a contract that the union approved after 23 months. A U.S. Army veteran who parachuted out of airplanes, and a 1994 graduate of Antioch University where he obtained a BA in Labor Studies through the George Meany Center, Patrick served on the Texas AFL-CIO Executive Board before his election to the position of Secretary-Treasurer under President Becky Moeller. Upon Moeller's retirement, Patrick was elected president. He placed broad emphasis on representing every last working person in Texas, speaking out on civil rights, low-wage jobs, and the aspirations of non-union workers on many occasions. He further built the state federation's capacity to engage effectively in politics and legislative advocacy. Under Patrick's leadership, the Texas AFL-CIO completed a renovation of Texas AFL-CIO headquarters, and following the election of Donald Trump to the presidency, Patrick declared the building the headquarters for the resistance. His advocacy and his leadership lived up to that moniker, and he retired as Texas AFL-CIO president, having laid a path to broader worker power that would continue well beyond his term. Patrick is married to Linda Patrick, and they have two sons, Brent and Cooper. Congratulations, John, on your selection for the Texas AFL-CIO Hall of Fame. Accepting the award on John's behalf is Brother Medley from the United Steelworkers. Lee.
So Rick told me the rules were I have 5 minutes. I believe we all know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
No. You said some awful nice things about John, and every one of them is true. But we're going to be here. John loves the Astros and Rick supports some team somewhere in another state. But oh man, nobody asked you who it was. John is a true friend of mine. He's like a father to me. He's to many of us. I know Ben Lillianfield's in here, Andy Fry, so many of us. Him and Linda are watching. So first thing I want to do is thank Rick and the Texas AFL-CIO, Mark, and Jeff for making this available to him and his family. John was really excited about who he's going in with. Connie English, the dean. I mean, what an awesome brother. Wynn York, a fighter, every day of her life. JD, you know, when I first started coming up here, JD was a fixture and was such a highly respected man. Brother Lord, you know, what a legend. And we thank you for 2 of your sons, and we'll let you slide on Rick. What is John's legacy? You are his legacy. When you look around and you got to be excited there's young guys in here. We have Brian Walker, Trent Marilla, Leray Williams. Jason we have a young man that's a president of the Austin COC. My son, Blake Medley. And we're proud of those guys. But I feel bad for them also, because they did not get to experience what me and Rick and so many of us got to experience with Becky Moeller and Dally Willis and Connie and Paula Littles and Royal Parker. It was a family. Every day, you know, you loved to come to work and you knew these guys had your back. And John did that. Him and his wife Linda and his family's watching, but his steelworker family's in here tonight. If you're a U.S. steelworker, stand up and be recognized and let John know you're here. John had many true friends. Jack Golden, Bob Cash, but he had a really great relationship with Emmett Shepard. Now myself personally, I never thought you should let the 2 of them in the room together. Nothing good can come of it. I don't know if most of y'all know Jack Golden. Jack is I know Mr. Lord, you know Jack for many years. Jack's a tough man, and I mean tough from the get-go. And Emmett and John were in Ohio. Why somebody would send them 2 to Ohio together, I don't know. But Bob Cash, Bob, are you in here? I don't know if Bob's with us tonight. Bob was one of the hardest working people you'd know, and we were working out of Pasadena storefront working on an election. And Jack told me, he says, I know Emmett or John's going to call you tonight. I'm like, yes, sir. He says, tell them to quit calling Bob Cash. They're slowing him down. Because that's the way Jack was, and John and Emmett. Emmett's not doing well. Another great leader. So keep Emmett in your prayers. John, still with it, still following his Astros. Looking forward to another season of winning baseball. But Rick talked about how many miles John traveled. It was an honor to travel with him, because you could learn more if you kept your mouth shut, sitting in that passenger seat of that car, than anywhere else in this state. But you didn't just learn how to arbitrate. You didn't just learn how to negotiate a contract. You learned passion, compassion. Nobody ever had to talk to John about diversity because he's already there. Nobody asked him, is it the right thing to support Montserrat? He knew it was. Questionable on the record. But stand up, be recognized. No.
Has there ever been anybody that had their ass beat by the Hall of Fame?
You know, John had a great sense of humor too, and we saw that, and he was such a genuine treasure. I have great respect for everyone on that wall there, and all the nominees tonight, but if anybody's plaque ever belonged on the wall of the Texas Hall of Fame, it is John Patrick. So, I am going to close out. John is watching, so I tell you, John, we love you. Good night, and what an honor. Thank you for letting me do this. Good night.
Brothers and sisters, that concludes our program. I feel my heart is full with what we accomplished tonight. Look forward to every one of you coming to the Texas AFL-CIO and looking at the wall and experiencing the joy of seeing all the honorees on the wall when we get there. Thank you all for your attention. Thank you all for being so supporters of all the people here tonight. We hope you have a great night. We'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Thank you very much.